I was 29, working as a waitress in Rosie's Diner, an unassuming little place sandwiched between an aging hardware store and a laundromat in a sleepy Kansas town. The days blended together, all like the one that came before. I served coffee across a counter, wiped down that same counter, smiled at the same people and went home to my empty apartment when my shift ended. It was a miserable life, but a lonely one, as well. The dirt-bone one kind of a loneliness that roots. I didn't talk much about it. Just keeping it up, day by day, head down, heart in a vault. And then one morning, it all changed. It was shortly after 7 a.m. and the diner was beginning to stir with the usual array of pre-dawn patrons, farmers untying muddy boots, retirees cheeking the newspaper. I was restocking some of the sugar shakers when I looked over at a boy sitting by himself at a booth, at the what you would call the window side. He appeared a decade older, with shaggy blonde hair and a worn backpack. What impressed me the most was that he was so quiet, totally absorbed in a book with a tall glass of water untouched in front of him. He came again the next day. And the next. Always alone. Always that same book, and that same order, just water. He never, as he said, requested anything more. Too much dust had accumulated in the dust chamber, no freaking out had gone on, but something in the way he sat there, quiet, focused, exactly the kind of person I needed at this time, made my heart ache just a little bit. His solitude was of a sort he knew old and well. By the fifth morning, I had had enough. I took a stack of the pancakes out, plated it and, cradling the mug, carried them over. I just said, "Oh, not charge," and put it down lightly. He gazed up at me wide-eyed, stopped, nodded just a bit and then began eating as if he hadn't had a proper meal in days. And from then, it was our silent ceremony. I never asked questions. He never gave explanations. I would make him a hot breakfast, eggs some days, waffles the others, and he would eat in silence, his eyes trained on his book until it was time for us to walk to school. We never said more than a few words to each other, but it was a strange comfort, as if we both knew some unspoken thing about the other. Some of the regulars noticed. There were whispers. A few of the patrons glanced at me, one even inquired, not unkindly, "You know that kid?" So I shrugged and said, "He's hungry." That was plenty of information to me. Some were more generous and said they would chip in from time to time, but I always said no. It felt personal. I didn't want charity. Even during lean years, I bought his meals with my tips. That child reminded me that not every hunger is for food, that child reminded me that not every hunger is for food. Then he missed one Thursday, then didn't show. "Well, maybe he's just running late," he said. But as Friday came and went, a pit started to form in my stomach. By Monday that pit had turned into a deep, gnawing worry. I couldn't focus. Soon I was watching for him between orders, straining to spot that blonde head and tattered backpack. But he never came. Days went by and I began to wonder if I would ever see him again, if he had been taken away, what had happened to him. I felt impotent and strangely hollowed out, as though I had lost something expensive and hadn't even known how much it had come to matter to me. The bell above the diner door jingled when a man in military uniform walked in on a quiet Thursday morning. His lined face looked old and he had tired eyes. He identified himself as Colonel David Reeves. When he asked if I'm Jenny Millers, my heart began to race. He extended a letter and when I nodded at him, spoke softly. "I'm here for Master Sergeant James Thompson," he said. He would come here with his son Adam. My breath caught. He said that Sergeant Thompson had most recently died in action. He was a single parent. Adam had gone to stay with a neighbor during his last deployment. Colonel James had known that his son was a regular at the diner, Mr. That was something Adam had written to him about. About me. My hands shook as I opened the letter. In it, Sergeant Thompson thanked me for the pancakes, for my kindness, for giving his son something to hold on to when everything else was uncertain. Those meals meant more than I will ever know, he wrote, that they were a reminder to Adam that there are still good people in the world. I sat in the diner, crying with him. Shedding big ugly tears that I didn't even try to disguise. As soon the Colonel left, the word spread. And, sure enough, those customers who once misheard me were now paying me back. They smiled more, tipped more and lingered to talk. Some even hugged me. The diner seemed something, a little, steadier, slightly warmer, yes, like something we could not see, were unable to see, a breeze had blown through. Soon there were other military families writing to me. Some even sent us thank you notes with their checks thanking us for caring for one of their own. A couple came only to shake my hand. In most of those cases, I had no freaking idea how to get started. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I just fed a hungry kid. So did Rosie, my boss. She started giving me more hours, and even put out a jar on the counter, collecting donations for military families. We called it Adam's Jar. I worried at first it would be, well, too much. But it was supported by the community. We did a little fundraiser, and for the first time there, it felt like the diner was something bigger than itself. It's a plate of pancakes, which you'd never imagine would ripple out into the world and have other ramifications than you'd ever think, but looking back it's such a small thing, so small. I didn't do anything special. I didn't save a life, or reform the world. I had turned up, I understood, and I cared. And sometimes, that's enough. And the fundraiser went viral in ways I could have never imagined. People across the county began arriving at the diner, not just to dine in but to offer money. Some left envelopes of cash, others donated goods or offered to help with organizing events. Some high school students even washed their cars to help raise money for the cause. A little diner nestled between a hardware store and laundromat had become the heart of something far greater. Rosie, tough as nails but soft in all the right places, took me aside one afternoon and sat me at the counter with a cup of coffee. She asked me to tell her about my piece, and when I explained, she looked me in the eye and said, "You did a good thing, Jenny." 978-1349, 11293, I thought kindness was a luxury we couldn't afford. But you've taught me that it's a necessity. She gave me a small raise. Nothing cataclysmic, but enough to take some pressure off. But most of all, she gave me what I never expected, her trust and support. She even allowed me to put a board up in the foyer that read, "In honor of," so families could pin pictures of their loved one's service. The board filled up fast. And every time I passed by it, I felt a strange swirl of pride and melancholy. Adam came back once. It was 2 months later, during spring break. And I was cleaning a booth in the front when I saw him walk through the door. He appeared taller, a bit more filled out, and this time he wasn't alone. A woman was behind him, his aunt, I came to learn later, who had taken him in following his father's death. Adam didn't say much. He just came up to me and handed me a drawing. It was primitive and childish, pencil lines and mismatched coloring. But it's something I'll keep with me, a diner, woman with a plate of pancakes, a boy looking up at her smiling. Above the booth was a little sign that read "Reserved for Heroes." And that drawing is still hanging on the wall behind the counter there. He kept me so tight that after a while I felt I had to say something, his skinny arms at my waist as if he didn't want to let me go. Then he paused and said, "Thank you for not making me feel alone." I couldn't speak. My throat closed up. I spent the whole time nodding, crying, and smiling. So I began writing more letters, little notes of encouragement that I would slip into meals I prepared for soldiers or their families who came to the diner. It was one of my quiet missions, a way to keep James Thompson's spirit alive. As if, by doing for someone else what I did for Adam, maybe the world itself would feel lighter. At no point did my thoughts wander, nor did those days that Adam spent in that back booth, reading quietly and placing one hand over the other to put off the gnawing of hunger. Even so, I never forgot the look of agony on the Colonel's face as the letter was read. And I never forgot that a small act of kindness, something as ordinary as pancakes, had saved my life. I realized that true heroism doesn't always wear a uniform or fight on a battlefield. At times, it dons an apron and dishes up warm meals to a boy with weary eyes and a heavy heart. If you are ever wondering how to do something to help make life a little bit better, sometimes all you have to do is be there for someone in their time of need, even if you don't know their real story. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was going to be nothing more than a waitress, doing the only thing I could do, which was serve people, one plate at a time. But through that one small act of kindness, I discovered purpose, connection, and something I thought I would never have again.